Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. Today I want you to sit back, relax, have a sip of your coffee, have a sip of your tea, enjoy your breakfast. I just want to take this time to tell you a story. I want to take this time to tell you a story of a very strong woman. This started back in April 4th of 1963. Now, those of us that are older, think back to the 60s. There was no computers. There was not a lot of the fancy health gadgets that would help people survive certain situations. So it was 1963. This woman's day started like any other day. She was raising two children of her own, two girls, and she was pregnant with her third child. So she got up her normal day. She started getting ready for work and getting her kids ready. Throughout the day, she started to feel funny, and so she decided she better go to the doctor. She went to the doctor, and the doctor told her she needed to go right over to the hospital. She was about to have her third child. So she went over to the hospital. She wasn't that concerned. She had had her other two children by C-section, and she was going to have this child by C-section also. But her main concern was that this baby was 3 months early if she was to deliver it today. So she went to the hospital. The doctors checked her out and said, "You're going to have your baby today." The doctors all got together, did the C-section, delivered the baby. The baby weighed just under 3 pounds. And if you held the baby, you could hold the baby from the palm of your hand to the bend of your elbow. In 1963, the doctors didn't give this type of premature baby much hope. So after a couple hours, they returned to the woman's hospital bed, and they told her, "Your baby is not going to make it through the night. We're sorry, but we really don't think this baby's going to make it." This woman has a very strong faith in God. She spent the night praying that the Lord would let her child live through the night. The very next morning, the doctors returned to her hospital bed and told her, your baby's still alive, but not out of trouble." So the woman continued to pray. The baby lived the following day, and the following day, and the following day. Finally, the doctors decided, well, we didn't let her see her baby. We whisked the baby right away. So I think it's time we let this woman see the baby. So they decided that they would take her to the nursery where the baby was. The woman went down to the nursery and she looked through this window. She wasn't allowed to go into the nursery, but as she looked through the window, she saw this incubator. And the incubator was so covered with so many tubes and wires and gadgets going to the baby that she could barely see the baby. She sat at the window and prayed, and she knew that God was in control. And every day she kept returning and watching her baby. Other family members took care of her other two children. One was 4 and one was 2. One day when she went to the doctor, they told her, "Your baby's doing okay. If the baby makes it to 5 pounds, you will be able to take the baby home." Months later, I think it was about 3, 4 months later, the baby finally made the 5 pound mark. And the woman was able to take her child home. She was so excited. The baby looked normal. There wasn't anything that really looked different than her other two children. As the baby was growing at home and she was caring for the child, she noticed that the feet of her child looked different. So she decided to go to the doctor, and the doctor told her that gangrene had set in because some band was around the toes of the child, all the toes except for two, and the toes would need to be amputated. So before the baby was a year old, her toes were amputated. After that surgery, the woman returned home with her baby, watched the baby grow and develop, but realized she wasn't developing like her other two children. The baby did not roll, could not hold her head up, could not crawl, could not even swallow. So she knew something drastic was going on. So she went to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician examined the baby and wasn't really sure, but thought maybe the baby had what was called cerebral palsy. And so the journey began. More tests were done, and it was soon determined that yes, this baby had cerebral palsy. She had the spastic type of cerebral palsy, where the muscles are very tight. For example, if you take a rubber band and wind it up, that's what the muscles are like in this baby. Most of the doctors told her to give her baby up and forget she ever had her. This woman could not do that. She said her baby talked to her with her eyes, and she knew that God gave her this baby for a reason. I want to tell you that this woman was my mother. My mother is now 85 years old, continues to fight for me every day, and without my mom's strength and courage, I wouldn't be where I am today. And my mom has always told me that God gave me her for a reason, and God has a purpose for me. Thank you.